At 12:18 p.m. on January 19, 1991, Captain Cesar Rodriguez watched two radar contacts blink off his display for the third time in 6 minutes. The contacts were 12 nautical miles out, moving perpendicular to his flight path. Every time he locked them up, they disappeared. Rodriguez was flying F-15 Sea-Tail number 85 to 0114, callsign Chevron. His wingman, Captain Craig Underhill, callsign Mole, was 2 miles off his right wing. They were protecting intelligence assets operating 60 miles southwest of Baghdad when AWACS vectored them toward two pop-up threats. The threats were MiG-29 Fulcrums, Soviet fourth-generation fighters, the technical equivalent of the F-15 according to every intelligence brief Rodriguez had read at Tabuk Air Base in Saudi Arabia. Rodriguez had been in theater for 3 days. Operation Desert Storm started at midnight on January 17th. His squadron, the 58th Tactical Fighter Squadron, 33rd Tactical Fighter Wing, had flown defensive counter-air missions non-stop since then, protecting AWACS aircraft, protecting tankers, protecting reconnaissance platforms. The MiGs appeared on his APG-63 radar at 14 miles. Rodriguez locked the lead contact. His radar warning receiver immediately lit up with a 29 symbol. The MiG had locked him back. Both aircraft were approaching at supersonic speeds. Head-on engagement, the geometry was perfect for an AIM-7 Sparrow shot. Rodriguez's finger hovered over the weapon's release button. The radar contacts vanished. The APG-63 pulse Doppler radar had a known limitation. Targets moving perpendicular to the radar beam produced 0 Doppler shift. The radar's velocity filters couldn't distinguish them from ground clutter. The targets effectively disappeared. It was called the notch, the beam notch. Every fighter pilot knew about it. The solution was simple. Don't let the target fly perpendicular. Adjust your heading. Keep the angle off. Maintain Doppler return. But these MiG pilots knew the notch too. The contacts reappeared at 12 miles, directly ahead. Rodriguez locked again. The 29 symbol returned to his radar warning receiver. The MiG had him locked too. Then the contacts banked hard right and disappeared again. Straight into the notch. Deliberate. Tactical. Rodriguez adjusted his heading 20 degrees right. The MiGs reappeared for 3 seconds, then banked left and vanished. They were working the notch systematically, staying at exactly 12 nautical miles separation, not closing, not running, dragging. Rodriguez checked his position. He was 15 miles north of the pre-briefed SAM threat ring around Baghdad. The MiGs were pulling him toward the S-125 Neva surface-to-air missile sites. Dozens of them. Radar-guided. Deadly. His radar warning receiver started clicking, multiple SAM radars scanning. The clicks got faster, more radars, closer. Underhill's voice came over the radio. Chevron, SA-2, and SA-3 radars painting us. Multiple sites. Rodriguez looked at his fuel. Enough to stay on station for another 18 minutes. The strike package of F-16 seconds they were protecting was 40 miles south, making their bombing runs on an ammunition depot near Baghdad. If Rodriguez broke off now, the MiGs could swing around and hit the F-16 seconds from behind. He made the decision. We push them back until the strike's complete. Then we run. They held altitude at 15,000 feet and kept pressing toward the MiGs. The SAM radars kept painting them. Dozens of radar emissions. The Iraqi Integrated Air Defense Network tracking every move. But the Iraqis were waiting. 3 MiG-29 seconds had launched from Qadisiyah Air Base, also called Ain al-Assad. One was piloted by Captain Jameel Sayhood, a 30-year-old Iraqi pilot. Assigned to the 39th Squadron, 6 years flying experience. Sayhood's mission was simple. Draw the F-15 seconds north into the SAM envelope, then hit them from an unexpected angle. The first 2 MiGs were the bait. The third MiG was the trap. Rodriguez was watching the 2 contacts on his radar, constantly appearing and disappearing in the notch. When AWACS made a call he almost missed. Chevron, additional contact. Your left, 13 miles. Rodriguez looked left. Nothing on his APG-63. The F-15's radar was fixed, forward-facing. It couldn't see targets to the side. The third MiG was approaching from their beam, radar off, invisible. The AWACS controller's name was Mark White. He was orbiting 100 miles south in an E-3 Sentry. His radar scope showed the tactical picture Rodriguez couldn't see. Two MiGs ahead. One MiG closing from the left. White watched the distance decrease. 13 miles, 12 miles, 11 miles. The engagement wasn't in White's sector anymore. Technically, another AWACS controller was responsible. White had handed off Rodriguez and Underhill according to procedure when they crossed into the new sector. But White kept watching. 10 miles. The third MiG was well inside AIM-7 Sparrow range. The Iraqi pilot could shoot at any moment. Rodriguez and Underhill were still focused on the two MiGs ahead. They didn't know about the threat. 9 miles. White made the call. Chevron, Bandit, left 9 o'clock, 9 miles hot. Rodriguez immediately jettisoned his external fuel tanks. 1,200 pounds dropped away. He pulled hard left, 6 Gs, vapor trails forming off his wingtips. His nose swung toward the new threat. As soon as his radar pointed at the contact, it appeared on his display, 8 miles, closing fast. The 29 symbol lit up on his radar warning receiver. The MiG had just turned on its radar. Captain Sayhood had Rodriguez locked. Rodriguez locked back. Both aircraft were approaching head-on at a combined closure rate of 1,200 miles per hour, 20 miles per minute. The range was decreasing 1 nautical mile every 3 seconds. Rodriguez started the identification procedure. Rules of engagement required visual identification within 10 miles. The F-117 Nighthawk stealth fighters were operating in the same airspace. Couldn't risk shooting one down. 7 miles. Underhill's radar identified the contact as a MiG-29. Electronic signature confirmed. But they still needed visual confirmation. 6 miles. Rodriguez's radar warning receiver went from a warble to a steady tone. Missile launch warning. Sayhood had locked him with the MiG's infrared search and track system. Rodriguez rolled inverted and pulled down toward the desert floor, releasing chaff and flares. The radar lock held. The MiG was tracking him through the dive. 30,000 feet. 25,000 feet. 20,000 feet. Rodriguez pulled 9 Gs, blood draining from his head, vision narrowing. The speed built to 700 knots. Underhill maintained lock on the MiG. He was 4,000 feet above Rodriguez, ready to shoot. But the identification wasn't complete. The procedures required clearance. Rodriguez's F-15 screamed past 5,000 feet. The MiG was 4 miles away, still locked on. The clearance came through. Hostile confirmed. Underhill fired an AIM-7 Sparrow at 3 miles range. The missile dropped from the F-15's fuselage, motor ignited, accelerated to Mach 4. Rodriguez was at 2,000 feet when he saw the smoke trail. The Sparrow passed between his twin tails, 200 feet to his right. He followed the smoke with his eyes. The missile tracked straight toward the approaching MiG. Sayhood would have seen it launch, would have known he had maybe 4 seconds. The Sparrow impacted the MiG-29's nose section. The warhead detonated 88 pounds of high explosive. The MiG disappeared in a flash of orange and black smoke. Rodriguez pulled out of the dive at 500 feet above the desert. His airspeed was 680 knots. He pulled 7 Gs coming level. His anti-G suit squeezed his legs and abdomen, forcing blood back to his brain. Underhill's voice on the radio. Splash 1. Rodriguez started climbing back to altitude. His radar warning receiver was still active. SAM sights all around them. The 2 original MiG-29 seconds were still out there somewhere. Then AWACS called again. Chevron, second group, north 10 miles. Rodriguez looked at his radar. 1 contact. 10 miles north. Coming straight at them. It was Captain Sayhood's wingman, or possibly one of the original 2 MiGs. Rodriguez couldn't tell. The contact was beyond 10 miles, so he was cleared to engage without visual identification. He locked the target. The MiG didn't notch this time. It kept coming straight. Rodriguez ran the identification procedure anyway. His systems indicated friendly. The electronic signature matched an F-15 or F-A-18. But that was impossible. There were no friendly fighters in this sector. The MiG was using electronic countermeasures, spoofing his identification systems. Rodriguez made the decision. I'm going visual. He accelerated toward the contact, staying low, using the ground as background. The MiG was at 8,000 feet. Rodriguez was at 2,000 feet. He was looking up at the contact with the bright sky behind it, hard to see details. 4 miles. Rodriguez could make out a silhouette. Twin engines. Could be an F-15, could be an F-A-18. 2 miles. Still couldn't confirm hostile. Rodriguez kept closing. His plan was to pass 50 feet off the MiG's left wing. Close enough to see markings. Close enough to identify nationality. The range closed to 1 mile. Rodriguez could see the aircraft clearly now. Twin engines, twin tails, green and brown camouflage. Iraqi flag on the tail. MiG-29. Rodriguez called it out. Hostile MiG-29. Both aircraft were about to merge. Rodriguez was below and ahead. The MiG was above and behind. As they passed, Rodriguez broke hard left. The MiG broke left too. Classic two-circle fight. Both aircraft trying to get inside the other's turning radius. The MiG-29 had the advantage. Lighter airframe, better instantaneous turn rate. But Rodriguez had cut across the circle during his identification pass. He was already behind the MiG's 3 to 9 line, the imaginary line perpendicular to the MiG's flight path. Offensive position. The engagement became a descending scissors, both aircraft spiraling down toward the desert floor, each trying to gain position. Rodriguez pulled 10 Gs, the limit of the F-15's airframe. The stick shook in his hand. Buffet warning, approaching stall. He saw the MiG 400 feet ahead, spiraling down. They were at 5,000 feet, descending through 4,000 feet, 3,000 feet. Rodriguez selected an AIM-9 Sidewinder, heat-seeking missile, perfect for this range. He got tone. The missile seeker had locked onto the MiG's exhaust. But the desert floor was radiating heat. It was midday. Temperature was 85 degrees on the ground. The Sidewinder's seeker was picking up ground clutter. Rodriguez tried to get a radar lock for an AIM-7 shot. Too close. The AIM-7 had a minimum range of 2,000 feet. They were inside that. He considered guns. The F-15 carried an M61 Vulcan 20mm cannon, 940 rounds. But at this closure rate and angle, he'd have maybe half a second of trigger time. They spiraled through 2,000 feet, then 1,500 feet. The MiG pilot was committed to the fight, still turning hard, still pulling Gs. Then at 1,200 feet above the desert, the MiG rolled inverted and pulled down, split S maneuver, attempting to reverse direction and escape. There wasn't enough altitude. Rodriguez recognized it immediately. The MiG needed at least 2,500 feet to complete the maneuver. The pilot was going to impact the ground. Rodriguez pulled up and left, away from the MiG's flight path. He didn't follow the split S. He watched the MiG-29 descend inverted. The pilot was pulling as hard as the airframe would allow. The nose started coming up, almost level, almost enough altitude. The MiG hit the desert floor at 400 knots, still in a 20-degree dive. The impact crater was 40 feet deep. The aircraft cartwheeled for 200 yards, shedding parts. The ejection seat fired just before impact. Captain Jameel Sayhood landed 300 yards from the wreckage. Broken leg, severe bruising. He was found by local farmers and evacuated to a hospital. Rodriguez climbed to 10,000 feet. His fuel was critical, 2,000 pounds remaining, barely enough to reach the tanker track 80 miles south. Underhill appeared 2 miles off his right wing. Chevron is reformed. Let's go home. They aggressed south at 600 knots. The SAM radars still painting them. No missiles launched. The Iraqis had lost their chance. The strike package of F-16 seconds reported bombs on target, all aircraft returning safely. Rodriguez and Underhill reached the KC-135 tanker at 1,400 pounds of fuel remaining, 5 minutes from flameout. They took on 8,000 pounds each and headed back to Tabuk. The entire engagement lasted 17 minutes. 2 MiG-29 seconds destroyed, 0 coalition losses. Rodriguez landed at Tabuk at 1,445 hours. As he taxied in, the crew chiefs counted the hard points. 4 AIM-7 Sparrows still mounted, 4 AIM-9 Sidewinders still mounted. All missiles accounted for. Rodriguez hadn't fired a shot. His wingman fired 1 AIM-7. That missile killed Sayhood's wingman. The second MiG, the one Rodriguez fought in the descending scissors, crashed without Rodriguez firing. Maneuvered into the ground. The operations officer asked Rodriguez to describe the engagement. Rodriguez kept it factual. Altitudes, airspeeds, G-loads, turn rates, no embellishment. The intelligence officer asked about the MiG tactics. Rodriguez described the notching behavior, the deliberate attempt to drag them into the SAM envelope, the ambush from the beam, sophisticated tactics, well executed. The after-action report noted that AWACS controller Mark White's call saved the engagement. Without that warning, the third MiG would have achieved a firing solution undetected. Possible loss of 2 F-15 seconds. White received a commendation. Rodriguez and Underhill received air-to-air kill credits. Rodriguez's was unusual, maneuvering kill, no weapons fired. 7 days later, Rodriguez flew the same F-15, tail number 85-0114, on another mission. His flight intercepted 4 MiG-23 floggers transferring between bases. Rodriguez locked the southern MiG. His flight leader locked the northern MiG. Another pilot locked the lead MiG. All 3 pilots fired AIM-7 Sparrows simultaneously at different targets. All 3 missiles hit within 2 seconds of each other. All 3 MiGs destroyed. Textbook beyond visual range engagement. Rodriguez's aircraft, 85-0114, was credited with 2 kills in 1 week. Both kills painted on the fuselage below the canopy, 2 small Iraqi flags. The F-15 flew for another 34 years, assigned to various squadrons, Oregon Air National Guard, finally retired in August 2025. Delivered to the Smithsonian's Udvar Hazy Center. First F-15 inches the National Air and Space Museum collection. Rodriguez retired as a colonel in 2006. 26 years of service. 3 air-to-air kills total. 2 in Desert Storm, 1 in Kosovo in 1999. Tied for most kills of any American pilot since Vietnam. The January 19th engagement became a case study at fighter weapons schools. Not for the kills, for the tactics. The Iraqi MiG-29 pilots used the F-15's radar limitations against it. They understood the notch. They exploited the beam blind spot. They coordinated a sophisticated ambush. It almost worked. The difference was Mark White, an AWACS controller who kept watching a fight outside his sector. Who made the call when the F-15 pilots couldn't see the threat? Who gave them 4 extra seconds? In air combat, 4 seconds is the difference between winning and losing, between coming home and not coming home. Rodriguez kept a photograph on his wall after retirement. A frame showing the view from his cockpit during the engagement. Open sky, desert below. In the center of the frame, slightly above the horizon, a small object. An AIM-7 Sparrow missile, fired by his wingman, heading toward the MiG that had Rodriguez locked. The caption below the photograph read, "This is an AIM-7 air-to-air missile shot from an F-15 Eagle detonating on an Iraqi MiG-29 Fulcrum during Operation Desert Storm." A snapshot from the doorstep of oblivion. The game with no reset button.